Oh, lots of good stuff. Oh shit! I got to put a casserole in the oven. Hold on a second. And yeah, we're doing that live. So okay. First time back since vacation?
No, it's here last
Last,
Friday.
last week, that's right. Uh, well, I haven't talked to you in a while. What's new?
Just like nonstop stuff, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
You
Hey,
know,
have
can't.
uh, have you been able to get any more raw materials?
Oh, it's just ridiculous. We're
Yeah,
we're going 8 weeks out now because we're backed up. You can't get the parts when you need them.
we're going farther than that.
You're going further than that
We're
now.
going, we're going 12 to 16.
We're 8, and I bet it's and the only this week was a little bit of a slowdown because of the holiday coming,
Mm-hmm.
which it normally is. Same with the beginning of next week. We're Christ. You can hope for no orders for a couple weeks to try and catch up. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. We're telling our customers 12 to 16 weeks out because we just can't get material. I can't tell you how many hoses we have sitting on a dock someplace. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't get containers because there are none.
No, you think that's what it
If
is?
it gets into the docks, they're like getting stacked and can't get them on trains.
You think that's what you think? It's the containers.
I know there's a shortage of containers. They're not, the empties aren't getting backs. And it's a little bit of everything, I think.
How the hell are we not getting containers? I mean, out of everything in the supply line, you'd have thought the containers would be the no brainer.
You would think.
I'm hearing that everywhere, though, Lou. I'm hearing it everywhere. We just don't have the we don't have the like I said, we have shit sitting on a dock. They can't get here. It's just sitting there. We got rad cores sitting on a dock. 1,000 of them.
We've had, you know what? I was laughing. Some of the excuses we're getting, I'm thinking OSG made up that excuse, and they didn't.
That sounds like something we would have made up way back in the
Yeah,
day.
can't even take credit for
How little did we know?
it. Yeah, it's unreal.
Unbelievable. But I keep hearing the same story over and over and over again. You know, we
Yeah,
just
I mean, I talked to one of my customers. They're in the same boat too. They're waiting on us. They're praying they don't get more orders in because they can't fulfill the ones they have because of lack of supply. And it's like I said, what do you tell people?
our only advantage overall, not specifically, because we got a few guys down south that just that's a whole different world down there. Uh, but we have, we're an OEM for like Kubota and Skyjack and who's the German company? Deutz. Okay. So while we're the OEM, they're still getting parts from other vendors as well. And the only advantage we have is what we're telling them is the same thing other suppliers are telling them. Other suppliers that we wouldn't have any connection to at all. Okay, and it's the same story across the board. We have it. Our suppliers are telling us it's sitting there. They did it. It's done. We just can't get it to you. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And my feeling is if it's a shortage of containers, build more fucking containers. Because the raw material is there. We're not having a problem with production, right? It's the end product that we're having a problem with. So let's just build more containers and be done with it. It's terrible.
Yeah, I find it interesting reading that I forget how many states cut off the extra unemployment benefits a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what it resulted in?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Not a damn thing.
Nothing.
Nope. You know what? It's not going to either. Lou, it's funny that you mentioned that. I have an Axios article here, and believe it or not, it's the first one on my list. So that's the first thing I was going to talk about. So we can either sit here and say, boy, we really coordinated this really well, or we can sit here and say, well, boy, there's a coincidence for you.
Well, you're talking about that because we can't find anybody to hire to work. And you know what? We don't pay cheap for production. I think they're offering 18 to start with very little experience.
Well, Lou, here's the problem. We have an overlap between the boomers and Gen X, okay? Because there's always an overlap. There always is between all generations. When it comes to the workforce, there's always an overlap. And we have a pandemic. And during this pandemic, I think a lot of people, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of them were boomers, who figured out a way to either, number one, retire, right? Or number two, go along their way without that income that they had and managed to be able to pay all their bills, to live their lives. They cut out things that they didn't need because of this pandemic, right? It really kind of showed us what we needed and what we didn't need, and what things were luxuries that maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago we didn't consider luxuries, right? And now you have Gen X, my generation, who just doesn't have the numbers to fill the amount of vacancies that the boomers created because they retired or are no longer in the workforce. Right? My generation is the first generation that doesn't have as many people in that generation as the one before it. Well, that's how it goes whenever you decided that you're going to kill unions, whenever you decided you're not going to pay people a living wage. This is what happens whenever you don't have the bodies to fill vacancies that you created. So now what do? Now you're paying top dollar.
And you won't let immigrants into the country that used to fill those voids.
Right? How many times have you heard me say our borders should be open as all hell? The only caveat is, as you're on your way in, you get a green card. Because if you're going to come here and you're going to be part of society, pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. I don't see the problem with that. Am I missing something? What's the problem?
Because you have a group that wants to suppress wages. And I think with what's going on now, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Because you're almost to the point where, You know what? Wouldn't it be great if all those lower wage workers just walked out one day and said, ain't going to lose much by going on strike for a few days?
Well, and here's the other thing, Lou. I mean, where we live, in our area of paradise, we have three Dunkin' Donuts, three Dunkins, right? We have three of them. We got one downtown, we got one in the Shannock, one in Shenango, right? We got three of them. And it is absolutely unbelievable that in those three locations, not only those three, but the ones that are in the county above us, geographically, in Merthyr, and I want to say the one below us in Beaver, but I can't say it for certain. They close their lobbies because they can't get people to work there. Lou, have you been in the Dunkin' whenever you've had to deal with some of, let's just say, Pennsylvania's finest for $7.50 a fucking hour?
Yeah.
Right? How many people are willing to do that? Now, a lot of people did it because they didn't have a choice, because of they were living their lives. But this pandemic, people took a real hard look at their lives and what they were making and what they were spending, and they determined it's just not worth it anymore. I can do something else. Basically, Lou, these folks raped the system, and now they're paying for their actions.
Yeah, here's a hey, Master Grant.
Hi guys.
Here's another one. I just read this the other day and I had forgotten about it. Did you know about some of the shit they put through in the Trump administration about restaurant workers, waiters, bartenders, waitresses, so to speak? You have the owners, like the waiters, waitresses, bartenders, what is it, 283 an hour, which is a sin plus tips. Okay, because of the way that law reads, they can tell all their waitresses, and you've seen this before it was legal, to pull all their tips, and they could redistribute it to not only the other waiters, waitresses, other wait staff, bartenders. They can now use that to supplement the dishwashers and bussers and maintenance or whoever else is there, which supports their bottom line.
Well, look, how many times have we talked, and I've told you, and I've told Master Grant too, and we've done it in private, not here on this platform, about companies here, about businesses here that I worked at. They work security for. Thank God I was working for a third party, and he really took care of us.
That were wage theft.
It was wage theft.
Well, it's legal now.
Yeah.
And they're wondering why they can't get enough people into a restaurant to work. Well, that's one of the reasons, along with fear of COVID, childcare, and piss poor wages.
Whenever it's let's pretend, because this is the most simplistic way to do it, and I hate to do it because it stereotypes people, but the most simplistic way to put this is you are a single mom, and your choices are go to work for some of these clowns that we had talked about, where maybe God's with you that day and you actually get to keep your tips, or at least a percentage of your tips, and pay childcare, or stay home, not have an income. You can get on welfare because you're female and you have a child, so you can get on welfare and not have to pay childcare. And whenever that is the better alternative, why the hell wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? You got to be home anyhow because the kid couldn't go to school. Why the hell, Master Grant? Why the hell wouldn't you do that?
You would do it. And a lot of people are doing it. It's like kids can't go. Kids couldn't go to school. Now it's summertime, so kids are home. people have, there's a lot of people out there who are at risk, and so they're not going to be so easily wanting to go back to work. And you're right, this whole pandemic thing has shown people they don't have to go to work. They can get by with subsidies and all. So yeah, it's why we've got a labor shortage. And I mean, you know, it's like there's people just don't want to do things. They don't want to go back to work. They don't want to work at those jobs that pay them,
Well, why should they?
minimum wage. They don't want to get in their cars and drive, just a mere 2 hours to come down to Charleston to visit a friend. They don't want to go and to work in the salons to cut hair. They don't want to go to work and work in a restaurant where now your tips don't even count. A lot of reasons, a lot of things going on.
All right, before we
It's only 3 hours one way.
This is why you're the master, right? This is
Almost missed that, Dick. Good one. You could have come up to visit. I would have bought you dinner.
Yeah. But I had to be on the show. I mean, we had the show to do, and then I was down here. I told my wife, Lou's coming down. She's all excited, clean the house, got ready for you.
I must have forgot when I was in the ocean with my granddaughter.
yeah, it's okay.
You know what? We picked the only week I think that had pretty much good weather all week. Since the 2 weeks since we've been there, you've had a bunch of shit going up and down the coast.
Yeah,
a lot of rain, a lot of.
You timed that great.
Rip tides. But yeah, you know what? I haven't seen you since then, but I think I told Patsy last week. You know what? There was a lot of restaurants in that area that actually had closed sections, even with the crowds.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough wait staff.
Again, reading from Axios, okay? Workers without college degrees who tend to be in lower wage jobs cite some of these reasons. Around 25%, so a quarter of them, are afraid of COVID-19 and are waiting for vaccinations rates decline before they're going back to work. Can't say I blame them. I can't, especially whenever you look at some of these asshole states who still refuse to do it. These assholes who refuse to do it. More than 20% say they have a financial cushion, and around 12% say their unemployment insurance is the reason they're not rushing to get a job. Child care is also a major factor. 20% of lower wage workers are staying home due to care responsibilities. So it goes back to what we said, right? Because if I got to go to work just to pay child care, why go back to work? I can just stay home. There's no difference, right? At the end of the day, there's no difference in what I'm paying and what I'm getting paid. So why do it?
And I tend to think that some of those restaurant workers also took some of those boomer jobs that were a little better paying than what they had. So why would they go back?
Why? Right, exactly. Why? Master Grant, if your choices are, I can go work for, what did you say, Lou? Two something an hour?
$283 plus tips.
$283 plus tips, and I can go to work for $283 plus tips and pay somebody to watch my child, or I can stay home and collect and not have to pay somebody to watch my child who can't go to school, especially now, right? Because now it's summertime.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's no reason, because the money you're making is just going from, you're just it's a consignment in a way. It's a pass through. It's going from you to them. I mean,
right.
It's not even worth, unless you want to get out of the house. Because you want to leave the kid for a while because you just couldn't take it anymore. But there's really no merit. And then you end up with $15 at the end. So it's a tough call, and I don't. And now you don't even get your tips, right? So now your tips are being divvied up between people who don't even putting in maybe a half-assed effort.
Well, why would somebody who's waiting tables, right, for $2.85 an hour or whatever you said? I'm sorry, I can't remember. Uh, think that splitting their tips with somebody who's washing dishes for $7 whatever an hour, why would they think that that's a good idea?
Yeah, they don't. I'm sorry, Lou. I was your.
No, I was asking both of you. Would you do it? Would either of you do it?
No, I was in that business. I know how miserable people are.
It's terrible. Master Grant, would you do it?
No. And remember, we even talked about maybe creating an app for for waiters and waitresses that you could tip the person directly through this app, but I don't think it's legal to do that. You run afoul of some laws that protect the restaurants.
Do, do you know what my wife and I do? And I swear to God, we do this. We actually bring cash with it, and for us to carry cash is the most. It's the weirdest thing ever for us, right? We normally don't, but we make a special point whenever we go eat someplace. Not whenever we order takeout or something like that, but whenever we go sit down and we actually have somebody waiting on us, we will pay our bill. We'll pay our tab with our cards, right? But we will leave the tip in cash, just so the person who collects the tip, the person who is waiting on us, has that cash in their hand. Now, if they choose to go through the process of sharing it with everybody, well, that's on them, right? I mean, that's their choice. And that might sound cruel or whatever, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather have it on their shoulders than have it on their boss's shoulders, who sit there and say, "Yeah, we're just going to distribute it," or, like we've mentioned, not distribute it at all, just keep it. So we will make sure that the person who is waiting on our table, who we see face to face, has cash in their hand.
Does the IRS or state assume a certain percentage on credit, no matter if it's showing on the tip line or not?
I don't know. Master Grant, do you know?
I don't think they do. I think it has to be an amount. I don't think the state assumes. I think if there's a zero, like if you put like a zero, they count that as zero. I'm not sure though. I could be wrong, but people don't tip uniformly, right? So you can't just say 15% because most people don't even know how to calculate 15%. So most of the times you're going to get a 10% if you average it out, in my opinion.
That's if you're lucky, right? That's if you're lucky.
We have an algorithm to figure it out.
Whenever our service is terrible, when it's awful, the bottom will go is 20%. Okay, that's the basement. And honestly, sometimes we even feel guilty about doing that, but it's like, dude, you were ridiculously bad, right? And it's one thing, and I don't mind if they're bad, if they're overworked, right? Because you can see them, right? You can see, and if they're just overworked, that's not bad service to me. Okay, somebody who's overworked to me is not bad service, even if I have to wait 20 minutes for a beer. To me, that's not bad service. That's just somebody who is just overworked and is doing the best they can. But whenever they're not overworked, the bottom line will go is 20%.
Here you go. All employee tips should equal 8% of your total receipts for the pay period. Although some businesses have lower requirements, should employee tips fall short of that 8%, you must allocate them the difference between the 8% of gross receipts and the actual reported tip income.
They don't do that. They don't do that. But anyhow, Master Grant, and Lou, that's how we do it, right? I don't know how anybody else does, but you can calculate 10% of anything and then just double it, and there's your 20%. It's simple. It's easy, right? But if we have staff who just fucking nailed it, they're getting one hell of a tip, because I promise you, they're overworked, they're underpaid, they have to deal with COVID, they have to deal with assholes all day. Now they're going to get a good tip from us. The other side of that is, well, we really don't go out to eat all that often, right? We really don't go sit down that often. If we do things locally, we'll just order takeout almost every time. But even then, I'll tip, right? Even then, I'll throw a tip on there. Just because, look, these people are they're working shit jobs. Help them out. I'm not working a shit job. I have a good job. Well, why not help them out a little bit? Give them, throw a couple bucks their way. What's wrong with that? It's just me, but anyhow. According to NPR, guys, this might shock a few of you, or a few people watching. According to NPR, we just got our clearest picture yet of how Biden won in 2020. Okay? So they did the survey of the voters, and they have their how they did it, and it's solid, it's good, it's fine, it counts. I wouldn't question their how they did it, but here it is. And I'm curious to hear your comments. Suburban voters, especially white suburban voters, swung toward Biden. Okay. Trump won 65% of rural voters, but that is 6 points less than 2016. Okay. Again, this is according to NPR. Men, especially white men, went toward Biden. Okay? In 2020, men were evenly split 48 to Trump's 50. And that is a difference of, 9%, because Trump won white men in 2016 by 11 points. He was only 2 this time. Okay? Sounds pretty good, right? Hispanic voters swung toward Trump. Believe it or not, Trump won 38% of Hispanic voters, up from 28%. So you got 10% more. Here's the one that I promise you is going to floor you, because it kicked me in the balls. Women, especially white women, swung toward Trump.
No, I'm not surprised.
Okay, swung toward Trump. They found that while the statistic is repeated over and over, Pew's data ultimately suggested it wasn't true. In fact, they found in 2016 white women were split 47-45. This year, however, which would have been it appears that Trump did win a majority of white women. Pew found that 53% of white women chose Trump, up 6 points from 2016. Dude, how the fuck does that happen? I mean, I deal in data all day. How the fuck does that jump up 6 points after he told you who he was, and then 4 years later showed you who he was? It still jumped up 6 points. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah, that amazed me. I had heard that statistic a couple months ago, and I was shaking my head wondering. He showed you who he was. Is that like the beaten spouse syndrome? Spousal abuse syndrome? My God.
Master Grant, how the hell do you... There's certain things I count on you for. Okay? Explain this to me. How the fuck does does that number increase by 6%?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Why not?
Because in 2016, when women, especially white women, had a chance to elect the first time ever, a woman president, and those white women went to Trump. They cost Hillary the election. I'm not surprised that they increased more for Trump because he had Kamala.
So you had not only a woman, but
Yeah,
I mean,
we
an
had
African American,
Kamala's
Asian American, whatever it is, because she was so mixed.
she's a mixed race, and because you can't just say she's black because she's not really black. She's kind of black and Indian, but she's not a white. She's not white, and that's why white women went to Trump. I'm just going to say what it is.
So what you're saying is you had a whole lot of white women back in 2016 that voted for Trump because they didn't want another white woman as president, and then in 2020 that number went up because the white woman was not nearly as bad in their eyes as the mixed race vice president.
Yep, I believe that. I believe it was all racist, and I think white women are a group that we don't look at because they're women. But I believe that they are notoriously racist. I'm just going to say what it is. I'm going to probably get criticized for this, but that's my feeling. And look at the numbers. Well, how can you disprove that?
You know what, Lou? I tend to agree. I do. I think he's onto something.
Well, I had the in-laws here over last weekend, and I know just from talking to them somewhat, because we don't talk much politics at all, because I don't want to hear their bullshit. But I could tell by talking to them, they're racist as fuck. The one comment was my niece was telling us that she went and took that 23andMe DNA just to see, and she was saying how it came out. She says, I'm even shown I got 3% African blood in me. And the mother's comment was, oh, you better keep that. You may need it to get ahead. And I always said something. I'm like, you know what? I ain't, because my wife would be mad at me.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah,
it wasn't worth it.
It's not worth it. Master Grant, I have said for the longest time, and I don't know if you've ever were privy to the conversation up, but my wife will tell you after Obama's second term, and Trump was running against Hillary. I said, and Lou, I think I told you, at this point, at this very moment, we will find out if this country is more sexist or racist. We'll find out right now. Turns out, I mean, these are three middle-aged white guys talking, but I think we're more sexist. What do you think?
I'd have to agree pretty much. And I mean, just look at you got all, and it's like why would you keep perpetuating it if you're a white woman? Geez, let's keep voting for the same guys that's taking away our rights and wants to tell us what to do.
Right. They'll bitch that these guys are taking away the rights, and yet when it comes to going into that booth and making your choice, you're voting for them again.
Men are pigs, but I'm voting for them anyhow.
The battered wife syndrome, Master Grant.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. You know, it's we need a man in there. So I'm looking at this. I think you hit a good point. Both of you guys hit a good point. And it's hard to fathom in this day and age. But we are. I know America's greatest country in the world, blah blah blah, but we are a step behind.
Yes, we are.
We are a step behind, and not. And unfortunately, you need to go travel abroad, and you'll see. And for us to keep doing what we're doing, it's surprising, but it's not surprising. And the venom, the vitriol that I've heard come out of some white women's mouths is just unfathomable. Really, it's unbelievable. And think the guys do it too, but to hear this from, anyway, we've talked so much about the propaganda machine of the right wing media that it's part of that. I don't know if you guys know, but Sean Hannity interviewed the ex-president, and he's going to run again because the country needs him, not because he wants to, because the country needs him. He didn't confirm. He didn't say yes, he was, but he's beating around the bush. But it was all, he's going to be back.
Dude, he's going to be in jail first.
No, they'll arrest everybody but him.
Oh, I think his time is done. I think he had it. He shot his load, and it's over now. Lou, I can't tell you how many young females, okay, and I mean this in all honesty. I'm not that I work with, especially on the weekends, who are lifeguards. So you know what attire they're wearing, you know what they're right, young. I mean in their 20s, okay, who are constantly being subjected to some very, very, very sexist statements. And I want to let these guys off the hook just a little bit, and I might be being naive because they're being told, "Oh, you should be a Playboy bunny," right? Or what was the other one I heard? Well, if you had a man who was making money, you wouldn't have to do this. They're lifeguards, okay? And the folks who are telling them this are far older than we are. Far older than we are. They're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. Okay? But they're still subjected to that sexism. I find it hard to believe that some of the people that I work with on my side gig are working a job in that field because they want 60, 70, 80-year-old guys to pretty much check them out and told them they should be bunnies. Which I started laughing whenever I was told this, right? I mean, and it was from one of the people who was told this directly. And eventually, we're going to come to a point where these folks no longer matter. They're irrelevant now. The problem is, Lou, they still vote. That, and I promise you, they're saying this, and they think they're complimenting people, right? I really think they're trying to compliment them by saying, "Oh, you should be a bunny. You should be this." They can't understand that this role that these clowns think that these females should have isn't the role that they're going to do. That role left, and to be honest, the only reason these women were in that role is because they didn't have a choice. My fear is that the recipients of this kind of sexism aren't going to go vote, but the people who are dishing out the sexism will vote. And I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of it too, because the older ones are.
Right. The older ones are, right?
And 60 years ago, that was the norm. But by them also voting Republican during Reagan, that's why those nice paying jobs are being outsourced to Mexico, Thailand, China, Vietnam for about $5 a day.
And Master Grant, these females, most of them are interns. They're not making a whole lot of money, right? They're not. They're making. I mean, where they are, luckily there's a CEO there that's going to pay them as much as she can. But at the end of the day, that's minimum wage or just above minimum wage. I mean, you know, maybe $8, $9 an hour to be responsible for somebody's life. Uh, I don't I am a 53-year-old male. I don't have it in my head to understand why anybody would want to put themselves out there and do that job. I would almost tell the world to go fuck themselves and find something else to do. You know me. That's how I would roll. Uh, what are your thoughts?
I got a lot of thoughts. so well, you guys have said a lot. I mean, that's a lot to unpack.
Well, sure it is.
You know, like the job being the president. So, yeah, I mean, actually, Trump said it on Hannity. He said he actually said, why would I want to? He goes, if I do it, I'm doing it for my country. My country needs me. He believes that. All right, so for him, it's a sacrifice, right? He's going to sacrifice his personal happiness. But what he said was telling. So why would I personally want to do this? He goes, with all the fighting, all the time, every day, all day long. Who needs that, right? And that's what it is. Whether you're one side or the other, you go in, and it's just going to be if you're on the left side, you're going to get hammered by the right. If you're on the right side, you get hammered by the left. Nothing you do is going to be right. Everybody's going to critique you up and down, left and right, sideways. And you know what? Is it worth it? The money? You know, you're going to grow. You're going to age 10 years doing this job. You're going to have the weight of the world on you. And for what? What do you get out of it? Well, you get immortality because your name will be forever known. You'll always be on a picture somewhere, hanging somewhere. So we were the president, so you get that. But yeah, it's a good question. Is it worth it? I don't know. I think when you look at it, yeah, I mean,
look at it this way, Master Grant. The three of us, and probably everybody watching, we all have a passion for something. Okay, you and I share a similar passion, right? In our martial arts, so we share a similar passion. Lou and I have common passions. And the three of us probably have common passions that we love, we enjoy. We don't want to give up, that we don't want to not continue to do. I can't imagine not putting a gi on. Right? I can't imagine living the rest of my life never wearing a dobok again in my life. Right? I can't imagine that. It's our passion. It's what we do, and it's one of the things that look at how our lives have been changed and where we've gone and the things that we've accomplished because of that, right? So I can understand having these 20-somethings who are following their dream, who want to do these things, who want to, for whatever reason, that's their passion. We can't explain why what we do is ours. Okay? We can come up with excuses. We can come up with things that the general public would say, oh, okay. But whenever it's time to put our balls on the line, we can't really explain. It's just who we are. That's what we do. That's our DNA. That's our genetic makeup. We love our art and what we do. We love it. For God knows why, but we do. So now we have these 20-somethings for whatever reason, love doing what they're doing. They love it. They enjoy it to the hilt. Again, for whatever reasons only their own. I'm not going to try to dissect it. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't care. It's their passion. Let them do their thing. But we were never subjected to, oh, hell, you should be in Playboy. Thank God, because who the fuck wants to see me naked, right? But you get the point, right? We never had somebody, a third party, who knows nothing about where our passion is and what we enjoy, and how, in a lot of ways, how we identify ourselves. Question or try to dictate what that is, even if they're the best intents, or even if they have the best intentions. No one's ever told us, oh, you should do this or you should do that, right? Why are they subjected to these things? I don't know. I don't
Well, it's easy. It's easy. Our culture is sexist to the max. I mean, we sexualize everything. You know, you look at it. Women can't go out and not have makeup on, not have a cleavage showing, and not have this or that, the other thing, right? It's part of our culture, and then they all try. And then there's pressure for them to outdo each other. So, you know, it's rough. You're right. That's a hard thing, and men do it too. I mean, there's maybe not so much with you're younger, Master Patsy, so you don't remember the good old days, but no, but I mean, it's not as hard as for men, yes, but actually these days now it is. It's becoming that more because there's more of that. What do you call it? The you know, where men have to do themselves up. Not.
Yeah, I have a designer who's all in on that.
Yeah, and now men are looking at each other, criticizing each other for what they're wearing, what belt they have, what shoes they have, what shirt they have, what tie. Yeah, it's happening, men's side, right? And so, but that's all that's our culture. You know, one of the things that gets critiqued a lot is, especially in the Islamic world, are the women who have to wear the headbands and the dress and get covered.
Burkas.
Well, you know, that takes care of all the sexism and all. When you're not bothering, you know, there's other things, but I mean, but on that side, looking at from art, you know, from the, you know, you got to be all beautiful all the time. That's taken away by doing stuff like that, and now women can actually be viewed as people and for what their skills are and talents are, not just sex objects. But I'm not saying that all women are. I mean, in my career, I've only ever worked once for a man, one time. In my 58 years, I've always worked under women. So when I hear things like, oh, you know, women are always paid less, women aren't as high, not for me. I've never seen that, because it's always been the opposite. But
I will tell you, of all the bosses I've had, the majority of the ones that I felt were really good bosses were female. Lou and I have an exception to that rule. For the most part, my most confident and the bosses who, let's be honest, Master Grant, the ones that I trusted the most, were always female. Overwhelming. Of the top 5, 3 of them have been female, without question. Without question. The caveat to that is the one who I didn't think was a good boss is the one that Lou and I have in common. Lou, what do you think? How do you feel about that?
I've had
you have a great boss.
The last 3 I had were women, except now the one's retired and a guy's coming in, and you know, in the same company, I could see the difference. You know, starting to See
Whenever
the
you started
difference?
there, I mean, let's face it, she was a great boss.
Who was?
Whenever you started there, where you're at now.
Oh yeah, and and the thing was, it was like the last two I've had have had a basic understanding of, you know what, you make money for me, and I don't give a shit what you do. Not in so much, but it was, you know what, I trust you, you trust me, we do what's right, and if we see something odd, we'll discuss it. And it was like I didn't give her ego, and they didn't give me ego.
And we're saying
Where now I could see this younger guy coming in full of testosterone or whatever, that and it was funny. I'll just give you a quick story. Before every holiday, the woman that was my boss, it was like the Friday before a holiday weekend, we're quitting at noon because if customers need something after noon, we don't give a shit because it ain't going to happen anyhow. We're going home. And so the new guy calls in and he tells the one woman in the office, he says, I decided we're leaving at noon on Friday for the holiday weekend. She's like, I was planning on being at Costco by 12:15 anyhow. And I think he thought she was kidding. She says, we always leave by noon before a holiday just because nothing goes on. It's just like an extra break that Joan always gave us. Do I want to hear a customer bitch at me at 3 o'clock before a 3-day weekend? Why? I ain't going to get nothing done anyhow.
right.
And I could already see that little change coming, and it's like, yeah, this is, we'll have a talk sooner or later. And right now I got some leverage because he doesn't know shit, and everybody comes to me for when there's reading specs and drawings and things like that. Nobody else there knows how.
That's okay. What's your history like? I mean, do you agree? Do you see the same trend?
The same trend with
How we basically saying that like I said, with my top 5, 3 of them have been women bosses. Lou kind of pretty much agreed with that. Do you see the same thing, because don't forget we're in 3 different, totally different fields. The 3 of us.
Yeah, I think that I think the days of the white man, good old boys club is fast degenerating. I think it's now harder and harder to find these places. Now you still have them, don't get me wrong, but I think they're the Harvard boys, the Yale boys. Yeah. But I think that these are becoming fewer and farther out, and we're seeing more opportunities for people with skills, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race. And I think the laws are also reflecting that too. Working for a company that is based in the UK and New York, I got to go through all the New York HR harassment, all those things, like transgender people. You can't call them he, they, thee, she, it, whatever. You're gonna go through all that to see that the training didn't stick. But got to go through all that training, and then in England there's even different stuff as well. I mean, it's so I see that this is it's slowly, and we also have now we have a chief diversity officer, I think it's called.
Oh, do you really?
You got to forgive me if I screwed that up, but this person's job is to ensure that there's diversity training and that people are hired and promoted equitably and equally, and that those are 2 separate things. And so it's good. I mean, I like it. I remember the presentation she gave was brilliant. You talked about equity, talked about equality, talking about things, and In fact, it was actually in the group. There was like 70 or 80 of us on this presentation, and this young guy, his might be like 28, a young guy full of testosterone, and he said, I'm looking over the participants list and I don't see anybody of a directorship and above on this. And I'm like, I'm glad you called that out. And actually, it kind of stumbled up the new lady. And she goes, oh, well, we're having a separate one. And he goes, well, it would be nice to see them here with us. And I'm like, oh, you go, guys. Yeah. But I do see trends changing. I do. I think that by our children's, it's going to be a whole lot, even more different. And now we're going to have to watch TV shows to see what it was like back in the 70s and 60s.
I do too. I see these trends changing. I also see the people who are holding on to the quote unquote old ways of doing things not going down without a fight.
So let's talk about that. Like the old way of doing things. Like we have a person made a comment here about living life based on the Bible, right? So let's just be clear on a couple things. Remember that in the Bible, St. Paul says some things, and Jesus says some things, and we want to make clear who's saying what. And so when it comes to these things about women's place and all, that's coming from Paul, not Jesus. It came from Paul. And so when you look at this, you got to think about the context that Paul was saying it in. Paul was not a disciple. He actually persecuted Christians. Never met Jesus except for when he was on the road to Damascus. So when you look at his writings and his context, it's easy to like extrapolate a sentence and say, boom, this is it. It's from the Bible, got to follow it. Right. But then you got to look at the context of when that letter was written, why it was written, to whom it was written, the context of the period. And then when you start to do that, you start to see, oh, wow, yeah, there's a lot more to this. The best example I can give, because I don't want to just dive into a theological thing here, but when Jesus went in Samaria, when he went up to the well and he met the woman by the well, we tend to think about that whole imagery, meeting a woman by the well. There's marriage context to it. There's so much involved with that we've lost in our translations. But to ancient Hebrew, there's a lot more going on when they hear that, because they know the background and all. So, like I said, we could go on for like 2 hours discussing these things. But anyway, to get back to this, to what I was originally trying to say, was that we have guidelines that people want to live by. You have biblical, you have you have your modern day, you have this, you have these different ways to live by, and that's fine, right? If you want to live by that, that's great. That's you, and I'm happy for you. But then to subject everyone to the same, that's where you have to stay. That's where I say no. Stay in your lane. Mm-hmm. Our country has the ability for people to stay in their lanes, but when you want to say, look, my way is the right way, everybody's got to follow it. Well, then now I see that's where issues come up. That was a lot of. Sorry for blowing a lot of money.
It was brilliant. Lou?
Yeah, that's perfect. When you think about it, and you see this over and over. What's the First Amendment say? You got freedom of speech, press, religion. Right. So you're free to follow your own religion, but because I won't accept your teachings doesn't mean I'm discriminating against you. Just what you said. I want you to stay in your lane and leave me alone. All three of us here are Catholic, There's evangelicals, there's Presbyterians, there's Lutherans, and you name it. How many different religions in this country? You know what? I don't force mine on anybody. No. I don't want you forcing yours on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't come to my front door and tell me this is the truth.
That's right. because you're right. You got Hindus. Hindus are huge in the United States now. You got Islam. No, the Muslims are growing and huge. Yeah, there's all these different groups, all these different takes, all these different ideas, and like right, and the Catholics too. But like you said, this is our like Catholics. This is our lane. This is what we need to stay in, right? And of course we all know that ultimately Joseph Smith is going to be proven right, and we're all wrong. But that's just another that's a story for another day.
Where do you get those?
I love Mormons. I love that story. Bad joke. Sorry, Mormons are great. Please don't.
We got about 10 minutes left. Let me start throwing some rapid fire things at you. According to CNN, Pelosi says Liz Cheney will serve on a committee that will investigate the January 6th insurrection. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced Thursday that she was appointing Republican Representative Liz Cheney to a new select committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, placing one of former President Donald Trump's most vocal House Republican critics on the panel, likely to investigate his role leading up to the insurrection. I'm not going to ask you guys if it ultimately matters, but do you think that was a political punch in the balls?
Why would you know what? Only her and Kinzinger voted for the panel. Why would you appoint anybody else from the Congress other than those two?
Is Kinzinger also on this committee? Or
I haven't heard, but I knew because McCarthy was threatening, if you're on a committee, I'll throw you off. Well, Liz Cheney basically said, go fuck yourself. She's on the committee, and you know what? Pelosi can pull, you know what? She could appoint Joe Walsh, retired congressman, if she wants. Right? If I'm not mistaken, she could pull anybody she wanted to say, well, he's a Republican representative.
Here's a good question. Could she have pulled McCarthy and put him on the committee? I know we don't know. I understand that, but
you know what?
Dude, I mean that'd have been some gangster shit right there. If she did that.
Well, you know what? That might be a good move.
You know.
Jeez, he has to be under oath the whole time, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Master Grant, that's some Newcastle shit right there.
Yeah.
This is what we would do. Right?
I gotta tell you, Pelosi, she's a hell of a politician. Yeah, she does not mess around. Right. This is all boy. Yeah, I don't mess with her.
Don't mess with Nana. She'll fuck your shit up. Lou, am I right? Is that some Newcastle shit?
Oh yeah, that's something they'd do.
Yeah, that's something right out of Lawrence County. We would do that shit. In fact, not only would we do it, everybody around would be counting on us doing it. People against it would be like, yeah, they're going to do that. And to finish out the show today, Vox, but you can find it anywhere. Trump's organization and Ellen Weiselberg has been indicted. Charges include tax fraud and grand larceny. I believe Weiselberg kind of surrendered, and he's now in custody, I want to say. I don't know. Watching CNN/MSNBC because I and you guys know how I feel about MSNBC. I'm not a big fan. I like certain individuals on it. I don't like the network as a whole. I don't know.
Why? I guess we need a lawyer here. Why was Weiselberg indicted but not Trump?
Well, because it's the organization, and he was the leader of the organization. Okay.
So they're basically going to squeeze him for information if possible.
That's what I'm feeling too. You really can't hit Trump with it yet. There's Rosenberg could have made a whole lot of decisions representing the Trump organization that Trump knew nothing about. Basically, could have. The problem is you kind of got to prove that Trump knew something about that. Until Weiselberg is willing to cooperate with that, It's just
Weiselberg said he's not cooperating, but then if he figured Trump was that damn stupid, maybe he got a bunch of millions embezzled in the Caymans from him too.
well, you know what? If this guy's in charge of that empire, he's got some shit. He's got some shit. You know, that's definitely there. He really does. He's got some shit sitting someplace that no one knows about.
I mean, what was his salary? About 350 grand a year?
Oh, easy.
I think that's what they said. It was in that range. You know what? If I'm an accounting genius with an idiot for a boss that makes or loses money in spite of himself, is he going to miss a few million?
He never even know it was there.
I mean, is he from Newcastle too? I don't know.
But you know what? The difference between like here and everywhere else is like it takes a certain level to start thinking that way. Where here, we're born with it.
Yeah, I mean, did anybody, I don't know. I never heard any pundits speculate about that yet.
Right, Master Grant.
All I'm going to say is the people who are listening, that these guys talking about Newcastle is absolutely true.
Hey, we lived here our whole
Absolutely
time.
true. It's like nowhere else in the world. You know, like you watch that show Lost, that plane land. Well, that's what Newcastle is.
There's a reason that the term "only in Newcastle" is right?
And when we say we know a guy, we know a
We
guy.
know guys. We really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I just want to before we go, because we only got a couple minutes. I just want to say that that England did it. They finally did it.
England did. Master Grant, let me ask you something. What the fuck happened to France? What happened to France? I personally, my feeling is they were arrogant, but
Yeah, you know, well, definitely they did not laisser le bon temps rouler. They were not letting the good times roll. They were. They thought they. I could tell you what it was. They thought they could beat the team. They thought it was not a. They thought it was a easy win. They gave their Swiss no respect.
Yeah.
You know,
and
it would have been different if the French played Italy. It would have been a completely different game.
Oh,
But-
that hurts. That hurts me.
No. What I'm saying is, no, that's not derogatory. That's meaning because Italy is a great team and France would have
Would take
risen
it
their game.
far more seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they went against the Swiss and they thought, oh, easy peasy. We play our second stringers, and Swiss weren't going to lay. They weren't going to lay down and die. I mean, it was so and yeah, arrogance, no motivation, bad coaching.
So the French coach was related to Mike Tomlin?
Pretty much.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's exactly it. Well, I'm glad they're out. I'm glad.
Who do you think's winning? They'll go through scenario. Just at the end of the day, who wins this whole thing?
Well, I think Italy's going to be in the finals. And I think it's going to be Italy-Belgium in the finals.
Italy and Belgium are playing tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they're on the same side of the bracket. They're playing tomorrow.
Well, that's your final game, basically. Those are the two best teams, in my opinion. Those are the two best teams in the tournament. Whoever wins that game is going to win it all.
I will tell you this. This is the most fun I've watched a international tournament in a long time.
Did you watch the Italy?
I've watched every game of this tournament. To the
Okay.
point where I'm getting my ass chewed for my class.
I'll tell you what. The Welsh team. Who was the? Wasn't Wales? Who was the last game they had? Was it Wales?
Wales and
Who did Italy? Who was the last game? Who did Italy just play?
Italy played. Oh shit! I can't-
Wales, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Really? Because Wales had that. No. Oh.
Look, Italy right now is playing like lights out. Okay, to me, they're winning this whole thing. Now that being said, I'm extremely biased. If Frank was here, he'd be saying, "Yeah, no, you're right."
But Italy almost did the same thing France did. They didn't respect their opponent, and it almost bit them in the butt. If that header was not called offsides, that could have been a game.
You could have.
So
Yeah, no, you're right. To me, Italy's winning this whole thing. And honestly, I think they're playing England. I think it's going to be Italy and England because the right side of the bracket, without question, England is the best side on that right side of the bracket. Without, I mean, it's not even close.
But they're not going to beat Italy. They're not going to beat Italy. So if Italy wins tomorrow, so really,
it's at Wembley. The finals at Wembley.
Those guys are. My goodness, talk about a turnaround from the last World Cup to now.
Yeah.
I wish the U.S. would follow suit.
Well, we can talk about that at length at another time whenever we're not alienating Lou, who for some reason. But just to keep that same theme before we go, in an hour, 7:30, women's national team play Mexico. Okay, so it's going to be a good game tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah, it's tonight in an hour, 7:30.
Thank you.
So I don't know if it's on Fox or ESPN, but let's face it, everybody watching this gets both of them.
As long as it doesn't interfere with my Hannity, that's great.
Well, you're gonna have to. You know what? After grad, sometimes you got to make choices. You do. I don't know. I would DVR one of them. Okay. But our women's side, literally the best side on the goddamn planet, without question. Our women's side is the best side on the planet. Played Mexico at 7:30. Last time we played Mexico, we beat them 4-0. Keep that in mind. But this side is our women's side is unbelievable. Our men's side, I don't know if you saw the roster for the Gold Cup. I shook my head. That isn't even our B team. That's our C team. So Mexico is probably going to win the Gold Cup this year. But that's the men's side. Our men's side is a train wreck. Our women's side, best side on the planet. So we definitely hit both extremes. But it's on in an hour. Watch it. You want to see the best soccer team on the planet, go watch our the U.S. women's side, because they're phenomenal. United got Sancho. I'm excited. I'm all excited. Master Grant, I can't believe I do this shit, right? It's like it's the off season, all the hype's there. I can't wait for the season to start because I want to watch United and I want my heart to break every weekend. It's just
and Lou's going, and Lou's just
I
can you please talk about the Penguins or the Steelers or?
Yeah, I don't know if you know it or not, but Nuno Espirito Santo, who was the manager for the Wolves, is now managing Tottenham. And it looks like Benitez is going to be managing Everton. So I know I know you're a big Prem fan. So there you go. Women's side tonight in an hour. Don't miss it. You're gonna kick
okay. I do have to run.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
Grant.
We're killing this right now. Everybody, thank you. We'll see everybody tomorrow. We're killing this real quick. Tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. Until then, goodbye, good luck, and God bless him. Master Grant didn't even give us a chance. He just left. Okay, bye-bye.